Found in a Scottish forest, this old glass bottle contained a dark liquid and sediment. It was embossed with the words Trade Y Mark, Younger, Aloha, and SCWS, ELT, aerated waters. The finder estimated it was from the 1940s and wondered what was originally inside. You have found a bottle from the Scottish Cooperative Wholesale Society, SCWS, Aerated Waters Division. The town of Aloha was a major center for brewing and glassmaking. This bottle likely contained a carbonated soft drink, like lemonade or ginger beer, popular in the early to mid-20th century. The dark liquid inside now is probably a mix of the original sugary residue, rainwater, and decomposed organic matter that has seeped in over the decades. I would not recommend taking a sip. A parent was stumped by the animals on their son's alphabet toy. For the letters Q, X, and U, the animals were not the usual suspects. They thought Q was a quail, but X and U were a complete mystery. The illustrations were of a squirrel-like rodent and a type of mountain sheep. You've encountered some of the more obscure members of the animal alphabet. The Q is indeed a quail. The X is a xerus, a species of African ground squirrel known for its bushy tail. And the U is a urial, a type of wild sheep found in Central and South Asia, recognizable by its large, curved horns. Toy designers have to get creative for difficult letters like X and U, often digging deep into the zoological dictionary to find a suitable creature. A user was examining a butane torch lighter and noticed a strange feature. It was a circular, sharp-edged piece of metal that could be folded out or twisted from the body of the lighter. It didn't seem to be part of the ignition mechanism. This is a built-in cigar punch. It is a tool used to cut a small, round hole in the cap, the sealed end, of a cigar before smoking it. This allows the smoker to draw air through the cigar. Many modern lighters designed for cigar enthusiasts include a punch or a V-cutter as an all-in-one accessory. It's a convenient feature that means you don't have to carry a separate cutter in your pocket. Inside a bag of Haribo gummies, a user found a rock-solid, jagged lump. It wasn't a sweet. It was hard, white, and pointy. They wondered if it was glass or poison. This is a chunk of hardened cornstarch from the manufacturing process, known as a starch mogul. Gummy candies are cast into trays filled with powdered cornstarch that has the shapes stamped into it. Sometimes, a piece of the starch mold breaks off and gets processed, coated along with the candies. It is technically edible. It's just starch and sugar, but it is rock hard and unpleasant to eat. A buyer at an estate sale in Pennsylvania bought a pottery piece and wanted to know its history. It looked Asian and antique. Despite the location of the sale, this piece is likely a modern Chinese decorative import, similar to items sold at hobby stores like Hobby Lobby or Pier 1. These mass-produced ceramics often mimic antique styles, like blue willow or Ming vases, but lack the specific maker's marks or quality of genuine antiques. It's a pretty decor piece, but likely not a valuable artifact. A thrift store find consisted of 8 colorful boards, plastic pegs, and a deck of cards. The user asked what game this was. This is a game called Pegs and Jokers, also known as Marbles and Jokers or Social Security. It is a race game similar to Sorry or Parcheesi, but played with a standard deck of cards instead of dice. The goal is to move your pegs from your start to your home using the value of the cards you play. It's a popular homemade or cottage industry game, often played by large groups of friends or seniors. Found in an antique store, these look like 2 dimes connected by a small chain. The finder broke the chain, thinking it was just random coins, then realized they were linked intentionally. These were handmade coin cufflinks. In the past, it was a common craft, or trench art, to solder a small chain between 2 coins to create a set of cufflinks. They were a cheap and stylish way to keep shirt cuffs closed. By breaking the chain, the finder unfortunately turned a piece of vintage jewelry back into 20 cents. A user found a folded wooden object. When opened, it formed a ramp or a wedge shape. They guessed it might be a cutting board or a strange chair. This is a slant board, or calf stretcher. It is used for physical therapy and exercise. You stand on the incline to stretch your calf muscles, Achilles tendon, and plantar fascia. It is often used by runners or people recovering from leg injuries. It's not for cutting vegetables, it's for fixing tight legs. Cleaning out old boxes, a user found a small blue and white ceramic house. They were told it once contained liquid. It looked like a toy or an ornament. This is a KLM Delft Blue miniature house. Since the 1950s, KLM Royal Dutch Airlines has gifted these to business-class passengers. Each one is a replica of a real historic house in the Netherlands and is filled with Bols Genever, Dutch gin. They are highly collectible, with a new house number released every year on the airline's anniversary. If the seal is intact, there is still gin inside. A user noticed rust-colored spots appearing on a ceramic dish. They wondered if it was decay or a stain that could be removed. These are rust stains, likely caused by tiny particles of iron. This can happen if the ceramic dish was left to dry in a metal dish rack, washed with steel wool, or if the water supply has a high iron content. The stains are on the surface of the glaze, not decay from within. They can usually be removed with a paste made from Barkeeper's Friend, or a similar oxalic acid-based cleaner, which chemically dissolves the rust without scratching the ceramic. A user noticed marks on their wall that looked like dripping condensation but were tacky to the touch. The user thought it was either bleach or paint that had dripped. This is a phenomenon called surfactant leaching. Latex paints contain water-soluble ingredients called surfactants. In humid environments like kitchens and bathrooms, condensation can draw these surfactants out of the cured paint. When the water drips down the wall and evaporates, it leaves behind a sticky, brownish, or oily residue that looks like a stain. It's a common issue with fresh paint in damp rooms and can be washed off with soap and water. After microwaving a burrito, the user found a clear ooze coming out of it. It was viscous and not just water. They described it as gross. That clear, viscous ooze is a mix of melted ice crystals and modified food starch. To keep the filling from becoming watery when cooked, manufacturers add starches and gums, like xanthan gum, that absorb moisture and turn into a gel. When the burrito is microwaved, some of this gelled liquid gets squeezed out through the tortilla. It's harmless, but its slimy, gelatinous texture is definitely unappetizing. While cleaning a secondhand keyboard, a user made a horrifying discovery under the Shift key. It wasn't just dust or crumbs, it was two small, yellowish, mushy objects. They didn't want to touch them, assuming they were some kind of bug nest or dried up gunk. The photo showed two unmistakable, albeit tiny, banana slices. Yes, that is a small piece of banana. The previous owner of the keyboard was likely snacking while typing, and a few rogue slices fell under the keys, where they slowly petrified into the gummy brown mess you found. It's a classic, if disgusting, example of the hidden world that exists beneath the keys of a well-used keyboard. It serves as a powerful reminder to never eat over your electronics and to always deep clean any secondhand equipment you acquire. While doing yard work in Virginia, a homeowner noticed a strange growth in the knot of a tree. It looked like a lumpy, woody mass, different from the surrounding bark. They weren't sure if it was a fungus, an insect nest, or part of the tree itself. This is most likely a tree burl. A burl is a deformed, woody growth on a tree trunk or branch, filled with small knots from dormant buds. They are typically formed in response to stress, injury, or an infection. While they look like a disease, they don't usually harm the tree. In fact, the swirling, irregular grain inside burls is highly prized by woodworkers for making unique bowls, veneers, and furniture. It's a beautiful, natural imperfection. In a 1941 brick house in a Chicago suburb, a resident kept finding piles of what looked like sawdust near a radiator, both in the basement and directly upstairs. They would sweep it up, and more would appear. This is a classic sign of a termite infestation, and the substance is called frass, which is termite droppings and wood particles. In an old house, termites often build their nests near a heat source like a radiator to stay warm during the winter. The fact that the piles keep reappearing after being swept away confirms it's an active infestation. The termites are eating the wooden structure of the house from the inside out and pushing their waste out of small holes. A user found a pendant featuring a hand with an eye in the center and writing on the back. They worried it was a cursed object and asked, "Will I be cursed if I don't keep it?" You can relax. This is a hamsa, or Hand of Fatima Miriam, an ancient symbol of protection used in Jewish, Islamic, and Middle Eastern cultures. Far from being a curse, it is a talisman meant to ward off the evil eye and bring happiness, luck, and health to the owner. Finding one is considered a sign of good fortune, not a bad omen. A homeowner found a large, roughly square hole in the wooden post of their gazebo. A wire running through the post had been cut, and the wood was burrowed out. They wondered what pest could do this. This is the work of a pileated woodpecker. Unlike smaller woodpeckers that drill round holes, pileated woodpeckers excavate large, rectangular, or oval holes in search of carpenter ants and beetle larvae deep inside the wood. The fact that it cut through a wire shows the immense force of its beak. It indicates that the gazebo post is likely infested with insects, which is why the bird was digging there. A user found a small tool that looked like a handle with two prongs sticking out of it. They guessed it might be a sunroof tool for a car. This is a cleat wrench, used for changing the spikes on the bottom of golf shoes or athletic cleats. The two prongs fit into the holes on the cleat, allowing you to twist and unscrew it from the sole of the shoe. Golfers change their cleats when they wear down to maintain a good grip on the grass. It's a standard piece of equipment in any golfer's bag. A couple found a box of old pins in a basement. They all featured the number 32 and various symbols, including a double-headed eagle and a swastika. They were worried about the swastika, as they knew of no Nazi-affiliated family members. These are Masonic pins, specifically from the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. The 32 represents the 32nd degree, a high rank within the Rite. Before its appropriation by the Nazi Party, the swastika was an ancient symbol of peace, prosperity, and rebirth used by many cultures. Masonic groups used it in this original, positive context. The pins are symbols of a fraternal organization dedicated to self-improvement and charity, not a political hate group. A user found an OXO brand container at a thrift store. It was a clear plastic box with a lid, but the shape was specific and didn't look like a standard food storage container. This is the collection container that comes with an OXO box grater. It is designed to fit perfectly onto the bottom of the grater. As you grate cheese or vegetables, they fall directly into the container, preventing a mess on your counter. The included lid then allows you to store the freshly grated ingredients directly in the refrigerator. It's a clever piece of kitchen design that is often separated from its grater at thrift stores. A driver saw a giant H-shaped structure being carried on a truck and asked if it was part of a bridge. It was massive, painted brightly, and looked like it was meant to float. This is likely a type of offshore buoy or a navigational aid. The H shape could be a frame for holding lights, solar panels, and monitoring equipment. These buoys are used to mark shipping channels, collect weather data, or designate special zones at sea. Given its size, it might also be a component of a larger offshore structure like a floating dock or a fish farm anchor. It's on its way to a life on the water. A user found a solid brass vase with colorful stones embedded in it at a Goodwill for $3. The combination of gold-colored metal and multicolored gems immediately brought one thing to mind for the Reddit community. While this is a vintage brass vase, likely an import from India or Pakistan from the 1970s or 80s, its resemblance to the Infinity Gauntlet from the Marvel Cinematic Universe is undeniable. The brass body looks like the Golden Gauntlet, and the colorful stones look like the Infinity Stones. The top comment, Infinity Gauntlet, perfectly captures the pop culture zeitgeist. It's a fun, accidental piece of superhero decor. A user's shark vacuum fell over, and a small plastic piece fell off. They were worried it was a critical part of the vacuum. It was a small, round plastic disc. That is a furniture glider, not a part of the vacuum cleaner. These are small plastic or felt pads that are nailed or stuck to the bottom of chair and table legs to help them slide easily across the floor and prevent scratching. The vacuum cleaner likely hit the nightstand, and the impact knocked one of these gliders off the leg of the furniture. The vacuum is fine. The nightstand just lost one of its shoes. A homeowner was cleaning out their garage and found a strange plastic base with a hollow metal pin sticking out of it. It measured about 9 by 6 inches. It looked like the foot of a piece of furniture or equipment, but they couldn't figure out what it belonged to. It was too industrial for a chair, but too flimsy for heavy machinery. This is the foot or leg base for a portable workbench or a tool stand, like a Black & Decker Workmate or a miter saw stand. These workbenches are designed to be lightweight and collapsible for easy storage. The plastic feet provide stability and prevent the metal legs from scratching the floor. The hollow pin is where the metal leg tube would insert. It's a common part to find lying around a garage after the workbench itself has been put away or discarded. Found among his late father's belongings, this tool looks like a sleek, flat metal stick. It is precisely machined and feels like a professional instrument. It doesn't have a blade of its own, but features a slot at the end, as if something is meant to be attached. It looks like a pen, a craft knife, or a medical tool. This is a scalpel handle, a standard tool used in medicine, biology, and various crafts. The slot at the tip is a mounting point for disposable scalpel blades. This design allows a surgeon or a hobbyist to use an extremely sharp, sterile blade and then safely discard it without having to sharpen or replace the entire handle. These handles, often made by brands like Swan Morton, are known for their durability and precision. It's a common tool for anyone who needs to make very clean cuts. A resident was bewildered to find a single, cleanly cut bone that appeared on their deck out of nowhere. It looked like a soup bone from a butcher, but they had no idea where it could have come from. It wasn't just a random fragment. It was a deliberate cut. While the top comment on Reddit joked, "I don't know what it is. I put it there to mess with you," the real explanation is wildlife. This is likely a soup bone or a steak bone scavenged from a neighbor's garbage can by an animal like a raccoon, an opossum, or a large bird like a crow. The animal probably carried its treasure to your deck to eat in peace and then left this piece behind. It's a common occurrence in suburban areas. A user opened a brand new pack of cheese and saw small, white, crunchy crystals on the surface. They were worried it was mold or plastic. Good news, that's not mold. Those are calcium lactate crystals, and they are a sign of a delicious, well-aged cheese. As cheese ages, the proteins break down into amino acids, which can form these crunchy crystals. They are completely harmless and are prized by cheese connoisseurs as an indicator of a sharp, complex flavor. You'll often find them in aged cheddars, parmesans, and goudas. It means you bought the good stuff. Found on a bike ride, this strange toy looked like a colorful, hollow tube. It was flexible and seemed to be made of silicone. The user noted that they seemed to be multiplying, implying they were seeing more of them around. This is a baby teething straw, or a sensory chew tube. They are made of soft, food-grade silicone and are given to teething infants to safely chew on. The hollow design makes them easy for small hands to grip. They have become incredibly popular in recent years, which is why you might be seeing them multiplying on sidewalks and in parks after they've been dropped from a stroller. A new apartment resident noticed a weird, slimy growth around their plant pot. They wondered if it was a fungus or something that grew from the fertilizer. It looked like a yellowish, bubbly mass. This is likely a bacterial colony or another type of slime mold. The combination of damp soil, fertilizer, which provides nutrients, and a humid indoor environment can create the perfect conditions for these organisms to thrive. While usually harmless to the plant, it's a sign that the soil is staying too wet, which can lead to root rot. Scraping it off and letting the soil dry out more between waterings will usually solve the problem. While eating a Rice Krispie treat, a person saw dark brown, hard bits mixed in with the puffed rice. They were worried it was bugs or some other contaminant. Those are grains of rice that either didn't fully puff during the manufacturing process or got slightly burnt. To make puffed rice cereal, rice grains are subjected to high heat and pressure. Occasionally, some grains don't expand properly or get over-toasted, resulting in these hard, dark-colored kernels. While unpleasantly crunchy, they are not bugs, just a common minor defect from the cereal factory. A resident of Australia was very confused to find a strange structure in their yard. It was a bundle of sticks, neatly arranged into a cone or log cabin shape, and it looked like it was held together by silk. It seemed too complex for a spider and too deliberate for a random pile of twigs. This is the incredible mobile home of a bagworm moth caterpillar, likely the Saunders case moth, Mitura elongatus. The caterpillar builds this protective case, its bag, out of silk, twigs, and leaves, carrying it around as it feeds. This provides excellent camouflage and defense against predators. The caterpillar lives its entire larval life inside this portable log cabin, eventually pupating within it to transform into a moth. It's a masterclass in insect architecture. A user found a rock in their backyard that reflected light when broken. They wanted to know what kind it was. The rock was composed of different layers and visible particles, clasts. Based on the visible layers and inclusions, this is a sedimentary rock. Sedimentary rocks are formed from the accumulation and cementation of sand, silt, and other small particles over millions of years. The sparkle, when broken, is likely due to the presence of quartz or mica crystals within the rock's matrix. Without a geological test, it's hard to be more specific, but it could be a type of sandstone or conglomerate, common in many backyards. In South Florida, a homeowner found a large hole in their yard, dug at a steep angle. It looked too big to be a rat's nest and too neat to be a dog's digging. They wondered what kind of animal could excavate such a substantial tunnel. This is the work of an armadillo. These armored mammals are prolific diggers, using their powerful claws to create deep burrows for shelter and to find food like grubs and insects. An armadillo can have multiple burrows across its territory, and the entrances are typically a clean, semicircular hole about 7 to 8 inches in diameter. They are a common sight in Florida, known for their ability to tear up a pristine lawn overnight. Found in the waters of Hollywood Beach, Florida, this object looks like a white, porous rock with an intricate, brain-like pattern. It is lightweight for its size and has a complex, maze-like surface. It seems organic, but it is hard as a stone. This is a piece of bleached coral, likely a brain coral. When a coral polyp dies, it leaves behind its hard, calcium carbonate skeleton. The sun and salt water then bleach this skeleton white, washing away all the colorful algae that lived on it. What you found is the beautiful architectural remains of a once-living coral colony. While it's tempting to take them, it's often illegal to collect coral from beaches, as it is a crucial part of the marine ecosystem. A homeowner was confused to find a strange pile on their deck in front of their door. It looked like a pile of dark berries or seeds held together by some kind of organic matter. It appeared overnight. This is animal scat, or droppings. The reason it looks like a pile of berries is because that's exactly what an animal like a raccoon, an opossum, or a fox has been eating. The animal digests the pulp of the fruit, and the undigested seeds and skins pass through its system. Finding this on your deck means a wild animal is using your property as a dining area and a bathroom. A user bought a bag of mussels and found a shiny, black, lightweight stone mixed in with them. It was very light for its size and looked like a rock, but felt different. That is a lump of coal. Mussels are often harvested by dredging the seafloor, and in areas near shipping lanes or old industrial ports, the dredges can scoop up lumps of coal that have fallen off barges or ships over the last century. It's a common, if surprising, find in bags of shellfish. It's a small piece of the Industrial Revolution mixed in with your dinner. A resident of Rockport, Massachusetts, found a gruesome pile of entrails on their flat roof. There was no blood, no fur, just the internal organs. They had seen seagulls drop crabs on the roof before to crack them open, but this was much larger. These are the intestines and organs of a medium-sized mammal, likely a rabbit, a woodchuck, or a raccoon. The culprit was almost certainly a large bird of prey, like a great horned owl or a bald eagle. These predators often disembowel their prey, eating the nutrient-rich organs first, and sometimes discarding the rest. They likely carried the entrails to the roof to eat them in peace, away from scavengers on the ground. Found on a hike in Sydney, Australia, this organism was a purple squishy blob. It didn't look like a plant, an animal, or a normal fungus. It had a bizarre, otherworldly texture and color, looking like something from a science fiction movie that had oozed out of the ground. You found a slime mold, likely a species like Fuligoseptica, though the purple color is unusual. Slime molds are fascinating organisms that are not plants, animals, or fungi, but exist in their own unique kingdom. For part of their life cycle, they exist as single-celled organisms, but they can aggregate together to form a large, mobile, slug-like mass called a plasmodium that crawls across the forest floor, feeding on bacteria and decaying matter. It's a truly alien life form. A driver found a strange metal object that fell out from the passenger side of their car. It was a circular nut with an interlocking mechanism. They didn't know if it belonged to their car. This is a stay-tight style interlock nut, or a retaining nut. It's a type of fastener designed to resist loosening from vibration. They are often used to secure bolts in high vibration areas, such as seat mounts, suspension components, or engine brackets. If you found it inside your car, it could have been dropped during a previous repair, or more worryingly, it could have vibrated loose from the bolts holding your passenger seat to the floor. It's worth checking to see if your seat is wobbly. Found inside a small jewelry box, a user discovered a small, toothed metal object glued to the bottom. It looked like a tiny comb or a piece of a clock. This is the broken remains of a wind-up music box mechanism. The comb is the part that produces the music. As a metal cylinder with pins rotates, it plucks the tuned teeth of the comb, playing a melody. The rest of the mechanism, the wind-up key and the rotating drum, is missing. Originally, this jewelry box would have started playing a tune as soon as you opened the lid. In the middle of a basement, a new homeowner found a strange, circular feature on the floor. It looked like a manhole cover or a filled-in well. Underneath was just dirt. They joked it looked like the well from the horror movie The Ring. This is likely the cover for an old cistern or a decommissioned well. Before municipal water systems were common, many houses had underground cisterns in the basement to collect rainwater for household use. When the house was connected to the city water supply, these cisterns were often filled in with dirt or gravel and sealed over. It's a common feature in old homes, a remnant of a more self-sufficient era. Found in a forest. While mushroom hunting, this object is a long, curved pin or stick. It looks like a hair accessory, but its presence in the middle of the woods was puzzling. This is a hair stick, or a pin used to secure a hair bun. They are often made of wood, plastic, or metal. A hiker likely used it to tie their hair up while walking, and it simply fell out of their bun without them noticing. It's the modern-day equivalent of losing a hairpin on a country walk, a small personal item dropped and lost to the forest floor. On the Oregon coast, a visitor noticed a series of metal posts set into the ground on the walkable side of a fence at a scenic overlook. They were about 3 to 4 feet high and had a flat top. They weren't trash cans or rope holders. These are the mounting posts for coin-operated telescopes or binoculars. These viewers are common at tourist hotspots and scenic overlooks. The telescopes themselves have likely been removed for the season for maintenance or were vandalized, leaving only the sturdy metal pedestals behind. They are waiting for the return of their optical partners to help visitors see the whales and waves up close. An item found in a garage has a hanger at the top and a hook at the bottom. The user thought it might be some kind of weighing device but wasn't sure how it worked, as a central lever or dial seemed to be missing. This appears to be the frame of an antique spring scale or a balance scale. The top part would hang from a hook, and the item to be weighed, like a bag of nails or produce, would be hung from the bottom hook. The user is correct that a crucial part is missing, either the internal spring and indicator needle or the balance arm and counterweights. In its current state, it's just the skeleton of a once functional measuring tool. A user was washing dishes and noticed a hard spot in their sponge. They cut it open and found a crystal-like piece of plastic inside. It was the same color as the sponge, but solid and hard. That is a piece of the raw, unexpanded polymer that the sponge is made from. Sponges are created by mixing a polymer with chemicals that release gas, creating a bubbly, foam-like structure. This hard piece is a chunk of the base material that for some reason didn't get mixed properly and failed to foam up during the manufacturing process. It's a solid nugget of pre-sponge that made it all the way to the final product. A user asked for help identifying the brand of a pair of slides, sandals. The slides were black and gold and featured a prominent, stylized fleur-de-lis logo. These are not from a specific brand in the traditional sense. They are licensed merchandise for the New Orleans Saints, an NFL football team. The black and gold colors and the fleur-de-lis are the team's official logo and branding. You can find similar slides and other apparel made by various manufacturers who have a license to produce official NFL gear. The brand is the team itself. A homeowner woke up to find a creepy snow angel on their roof. There were no footprints leading to or from it. It was a symmetrical pattern in the snow, as if something had lain there and then vanished. This is not a paranormal event, but a thermal one. The snow angel is a heat shadow caused by something in the attic. There is likely a hot water pipe, a heating duct, or an uninsulated light fixture in the attic right below that spot. The heat rises, warms the roof sheathing, and melts the snow from underneath in that specific pattern. It's a sign of poor insulation, creating a spooky image on the roof. A user posted a photo of a flat, furry, brown object asking, "Is this a beaver tail?" It was found on a deck and looked organic and dense. I'm afraid the reality is much grosser than a beaver tail. That is a clump of matted hair and fur. It likely came from a dog that was shedding heavily, or it could be a hair clog pulled from a drain that dried out. When wet fur is compressed and then dries, it forms a dense, felt-like mat that can surprisingly resemble the texture of a beaver's tail. Seen in a display case in an Irish pub, this metal tool has a hinge and two handles. The user guessed it was for cutting something. It looked industrial and heavy. This is an antique lever-action nutcracker. Unlike the handheld squeeze type, this one sits on a table. You place the nut in the crushing zone and pull the lever down to crack the shell. It is also possible it is a plug tobacco cutter, which has a similar lever mechanism used to slice chunks of tobacco from a dense brick. Both items are common decor in rustic pubs. A snacker bit into a date or cut it open to find a black, powdery substance inside where the pit should be. They asked if it was mold. Yes, that is Aspergillus niger. Mold. It is very common in dates. Because dates are not pasteurized, to preserve their texture, fungal spores can sometimes survive inside the fruit. If you see black dust or soot inside a date, do not eat it. While usually not deadly to healthy people, inhaling the spores can be irritating, and it certainly tastes terrible. Always tear dates open before eating them. On the bottom of a bottle of Amaro Nonino, a user noticed a symbol embossed in the glass. It looked like the alchemical symbol for mercury, or a stylized signature. This is a glassmaker's mark or a punt mark. High-end bottle manufacturers often emboss their logo or a symbol on the bottom, the punt, of the bottle to identify the mold or the glassworks. In the case of Amaro Nonino, the bottle design is inspired by old apothecary glassware, so the symbol is likely a stylistic nod to alchemy, fitting the elixir vibe of the herbal liqueur inside. A person cracked an egg and found little brown bits floating in the white. They panicked, thinking it was a baby chick embryo. These are called meat spots. They are small pieces of tissue from the hen's reproductive tract that occasionally get trapped inside the egg as it forms. Unlike a blood spot, they are usually brown or gray. While unappealing, they are harmless and do not indicate a fertilized embryo. You can simply pick them out with a fork, and the rest of the egg is perfectly fine to cook. Underneath a bridge in Virginia, a walker found a cluster of tube-shaped nests. They looked like they were made of dried mud and were arranged in rows. They were clearly the home of some kind of insect. These are the nests of mud dauber wasps. Unlike hornets or yellow jackets, mud daubers are solitary wasps that are generally not aggressive. The female wasp builds these tubular chambers out of mud, then provisions each one with a paralyzed spider. She lays a single egg on the spider, seals the chamber, and flies off. When the larva hatches, it consumes the live, paralyzed spider for food. It's a creepy but fascinating part of the insect world. A driver kept seeing trucks on the highway carrying loads of wavy metal plates. They looked like copper and were stacked on pallets. The user wondered what this specific form of metal was and where it was going. These are copper cathodes, the final product of the electrolytic refining process. When copper ore is refined, it is electroplated onto large stainless steel sheets. The pure 99.99% copper is then stripped off, leaving behind these wavy, high-purity plates. They are being transported from the refinery to a wire plant or a mill, where they will be melted down and drawn into copper wire, pipes, or other industrial products. It's raw, pure copper on its way to becoming part of our infrastructure. While walking in a cemetery, a visitor noticed a gravestone with a carving of a hand pointing up at a star. They wondered about the meaning of this specific symbol. This is common Victorian-era cemetery iconography. The hand pointing up signifies that the soul of the deceased has ascended to heaven and is a reminder to the living to look towards the afterlife. The star often represents divine guidance, rebirth, or the soul's journey. Together, the symbols convey a message of hope and faith. The departed has followed God's light to their final reward in the heavens. A cool pocket knife was found that included a strange, sharp spike alongside the main blade. The spike didn't look like a weapon or a standard tool like a screwdriver. That spike is a marlin spike. This is a tool traditionally used by sailors and riggers for working with rope. The tapered spike is perfect for splicing ropes, untying tight knots, and separating strands of a line. Knives that include a marlin spike are often called riggers' knives and are essential for anyone working on a boat or with complex rope work. It's a tool for creation and repair, not for combat. A user saw a picture on a Chinese Instagram account of stacked, dark, rectangular blocks and asked if they were valuable. The text on the wrapper was in Chinese and included the words, "Private Collection." These are compressed bricks of pu'er tea from Yunnan, China. Pu'er is a fermented tea that is often pressed into cakes or bricks and aged for years, much like wine. Aged, high-quality pu'er can be extremely valuable, sometimes selling for thousands of dollars per brick. The text, "Private Collection," and "Strictly Forbidden to Open" suggests these are high-grade bricks intended for long-term aging, not for immediate consumption. Visitors to the Duke Gardens in North Carolina noticed small house-like structures with holes drilled in them. They asked if animals lived inside, and if so, what kind. These are bee hotels or nesting boxes for solitary native bees, such as mason bees or leafcutter bees. Unlike honeybees that live in hives, many native bee species lay their eggs in pre-existing tunnels, like hollow reeds or beetle burrows. These bee hotels provide a safe place for them to nest and are crucial for supporting local pollinator populations. Each hole will house a single bee's offspring for the next season. A homeowner noticed a perfect, spontaneous ring of dark green grass in their lawn. The grass inside and outside the ring was a lighter color. It looked like something from a fantasy story. You have found a fairy ring. It is a naturally occurring phenomenon caused by a type of fungus, mycelium, growing underground. The fungus spreads out in a circle, and as it breaks down organic matter in the soil, it releases nitrogen, which acts as a fertilizer. This makes the grass at the edge of the circle grow darker and lusher. In folklore, these rings were believed to be portals to the fairy realm or places where elves danced at night. A user had a kettle with glowing green orbs inside, even when the power was off. They joked about enriched uranium globes heating the water. While the original post was likely a joke, this phenomenon is real in certain vintage items. What the user is describing is the fluorescence of uranium glass, or Vaseline glass. Before World War II, a small amount of uranium was added to glass to give it a yellow-green tint. This glass glows brightly under ultraviolet light. If the kettle was actually a vintage glass vessel, the glowing orbs could be glass marbles, or decorative elements made of this radioactive, but generally harmless material. Spotted on the side of the road in Denver, this object was a large, conical, and ribbed object. The shape was immediately recognizable and led to one obvious, hilarious conclusion. The immediate and overwhelming consensus is that this is an expandable butt plug, or a similar adult toy that has had a very bad day. It likely fell out of a car or was discarded. While it could theoretically be a very strangely shaped piece of automotive equipment or a chair leg, its specific silhouette points directly to the adult novelty market. It's a piece of roadside refuse that tells a story some might not want to hear. While visiting Animal Kingdom at Disney, a guest spotted a beautiful, bright green creature. It had a distinct shape with yellow ring markings, a forked red antenna, and large, expressive eyes. It looked like a real-life caterpillar, but almost too perfect, too animated to be a normal insect. It was resting peacefully on a leaf, captivating everyone who noticed it. What is this incredible bug? You have found a Pokemon. This is an incredibly realistic model or animatronic of Caterpie, one of the original bug-type Pokemon from the globally famous Nintendo game and anime series. Disney parks, especially Animal Kingdom, are known for their immersive streetmosphere characters. It appears they have expanded their magical world to include creatures from other beloved franchises. It's not a real insect, but a wonderfully crafted piece of art designed to bring a touch of the Pokemon world to life for surprised and delighted fans. A user's neighbor found their car's license plate flipped up for no apparent reason. They wondered if it was a prank, an attempted theft, or even the work of squirrels. The top bolts were rusted, making it hard to move, yet something had bent it upwards, obscuring the plate number. The most likely culprit here is an automatic car wash. The high-pressure water jets and heavy rotating brushes in a touch car wash can easily catch the bottom edge of a license plate and bend it upwards. This is especially common with older, more flexible plates or frames. While pranks are possible, the sheer force required to bend a plate like this usually points to a powerful machine rather than a human hand. A person broke open a banana and found a strange, crunchy substance inside. It was dark, almost black, and ran through the center of the fruit. They thought it might be a worm or a weird seed. This is a fungal condition in bananas, often called mochilo, or caused by the fungus Nigrospora. It infects the banana flower and grows down into the core of the fruit as it develops, turning the center dark and fibrous. While it's colloquially called banana worm, it's not actually an insect. The banana is still safe to eat around the affected area, but the dark, gritty core is unappetizing and should be cut out. A viewer watching the classic horror film The Shining noticed something next to Jack Torrance's typewriter, a cup full of what looked like pencils. They asked what these antique devices were. While the question seems like a joke, it highlights a fascinating detail. Those are indeed pencils, but specifically, they are typewriter eraser pencils. Before the delete key, correcting a typo on a typewriter was a difficult task. These pencils had a hard, gritty eraser tip, often containing sand or vinyl, that was abrasive enough to scrub the ink off the paper. For a writer like Jack, having a cup full of these would have been an essential part of the messy, frustrating process of typing a manuscript. A friend found a wooden object, but no one in their family could identify it. It looks like a small, decorative rack with grooves or holes designed to hold something upright. It's too small for wine bottles and too specific for pens. This is a tobacco pipe stand. It is designed to hold and display briar or meerschaum smoking pipes when they are not in use. The grooves in the base hold the bowl of the pipe, while the stem rests against the upper support. Storing a pipe this way allows air to circulate through it, helping it dry out properly between smokes. It's a classic accessory for the distinguished pipe-smoking gentleman of a bygone era. Right before a flight, a passenger looked out the window and saw that the water near the airport was completely black. They were concerned it was polluted or a sign of something wrong. The water appears black because it is very deep. Deep, clear water absorbs most of the sunlight that hits it, reflecting very little back to the viewer's eye, which makes it look dark or black. In contrast, shallow water allows sunlight to reflect off the sandy bottom, making it appear blue or green. The black water near the airport is likely a deep channel for ships, or simply the natural depth of the bay or ocean. It's a sign of depth, not danger. After popping the hood of their car, a user found a sticky, waxy substance all over the engine bay. It was clear or yellowish and attracted a lot of dust and dirt. They wondered if it was a leak or some kind of spill. This sticky coating is a protective wax or cosmoline-like substance applied at the factory. It is designed to protect the metal and plastic components of the engine from corrosion and rust during shipping, especially if the car is transported overseas by boat. While some dealerships are supposed to clean this off during pre-delivery inspection, the job is often rushed, leaving this sticky, dust-attracting layer behind. It is harmless, just messy. A mark appeared in a user's ceiling. They stated they knew it wasn't a leak because it hadn't rained recently. The mark was a classic brown water stain, discolored and spreading. Despite the lack of rain, that is absolutely a water leak. Leaks don't just come from the roof. They can come from plumbing pipes, supplier drain lines, a leaking toilet wax ring on the floor above, or a condensation pan from an HVAC unit in the attic. The brownish stain is caused by tannins and minerals in the drywall and wood that are dissolved by the water. You need to find the source of the water before the ceiling is ruined. Spotted on an SUV, a decal in an Old English font read, "Tax my diak." The user was stumped by the meaning and the strange, aggressive phrasing. This is an anti-authority or anti-taxation sticker using crude humor to express a political sentiment. The phrase is a vulgar variation of historical protest slogans like "No taxation without representation." It's meant to be a provocative and defiant statement against what the owner perceives as excessive government overreach or taxation. The Old English font adds a layer of mock formality or historical weight to the crude message, amplifying the sticker's edgy, rebellious tone. A new apartment resident ran their dishwasher for the first time without soap and was horrified to see black gunk and debris come up into the kitchen sink. The dishwasher also smelled disgusting. This is old, accumulated food debris and biofilm being flushed out of the dishwasher's drain hose in the sink's plumbing. When a dishwasher sits unused for a long time, the stagnant water in the pipes allows bacteria and mold to grow on the trapped food particles. The first time you run it, the powerful pump dislodges all of this sludge and forces it up into the sink. It's gross, but a few cleaning cycles with dishwasher cleaner and hot water should clear it out. A driver saw a strange phenomenon on their way home, a massive shadow that seemed to be cast across the entire sky. It looked like a searchlight beam, but in reverse, a ray of darkness instead of light. This is a crepuscular ray, but seen from a different perspective, it's a cloud shadow. When the sun is low on the horizon, a distant mountain or a large cloud below the horizon can block the sunlight, casting a massive shadow that stretches across the sky. Because of perspective, these shadows appear to converge at a point on the horizon, just like sunbeams. You are seeing the shadow of a cloud that is over the horizon and out of your sight. A new resident moved into a house and found a strange metal bracket in the kitchen. It was mounted on the wall and looked like a mechanical arm, but part of it was missing. It was too heavy-duty for a spice rack, but too small for a modern television. This is the leftover wall mount for a small, old-school kitchen television. In the 1990s and early 2000s, it was very popular to have a small CRT TV with a built-in VCR or DVD player mounted under a cabinet or on the wall to watch cooking shows or the morning news. The TV itself is long gone, but the sturdy metal bracket used to hold it in place has been left behind as a ghost of kitchens past. A user opened a chocolate bar and found that it was covered in a whitish, matte layer. It looked like mold, or as if the chocolate had gone bad. They wondered if it was still safe to eat. This is a harmless phenomenon called chocolate bloom. There are two types: sugar bloom, which happens when moisture gets on the chocolate, and fat bloom, which is more common and occurs when the chocolate gets slightly warm. The cocoa butter separates and rises to the surface, recrystallizing into this chalky white coating. While it might affect the texture, making it a bit crumbly, the chocolate is perfectly safe to eat. Found near a bus stop in Brazil, tucked between a roof tile and a wall, was a weird clay plaque. It featured a face and symbols. The finder asked a colleague who practices the Afro-Brazilian religion Umbanda, but they didn't recognize it. While the exact meaning is unclear, this is almost certainly a religious offering or a protective charm, likely related to an Afro-Brazilian spiritual tradition like Umbanda or Candomblé, or even folk magic. Such offerings, called abos, are often left at crossroads, near nature, or in public places to appease spirits, ask for favors, or ward off evil. The fact that the local practitioner didn't recognize it suggests it might be for a specific, less common entity, or from a different spiritual lineage. A couple was perplexed to find a small pile of seeds on top of their comforter. They hadn't eaten anything in bed and couldn't figure out where they came from. The seeds were small, round, and hard. You likely have a leaking microwavable heating pad or a weighted stuffed animal. These therapeutic items are often filled with natural materials like flaxseed, rice, cherry pits, or buckwheat hulls. When heated, they provide moist warmth. Over time, a seam can come loose, causing the filling to slowly leak out. The couple probably used the heating pad in bed, and a small hole spilled the seeds onto the blanket. Found in southwest Ohio, these small, carved stone figures look like ancient artifacts. They have a distinct, blocky style with large eyes and a grimacing mouth. The finder's neighbor discovered them in their yard 50 years ago. These are not ancient Ohio artifacts, but rather tiki idols, likely souvenirs from the tiki culture craze of the 1950s and 60s. The most famous one resembles the idol from a classic episode of The Brady Bunch, where the family finds a cursed tiki in Hawaii. These were mass-produced and sold as decor for backyard luau's and tiki bars. Finding them in an Ohio yard is a sign that someone was bringing a taste of Polynesia to the American Midwest. A user found a heavy, solid, coated metal object on the ground. They described its features in detail, seemingly unaware of what it was, and asked the community for help. It was round, with a picture of a man on one side and an eagle on the other. This is a United States $quarter coin worth 25 cents. The man depicted is George Washington, the first president of the United States, and the bird is a bald eagle, the national emblem. While the question might seem like a joke, it's possible the user was from a country that doesn't use U.S. currency and was genuinely curious about this piece of everyday American pocket change. A person cracked an egg and was horrified by what came out. It was a strange, deformed mass that didn't look like a normal yolk and white. They wondered what was wrong with the egg. This is likely a shellless or soft-shelled egg. Sometimes a hen's reproductive system malfunctions, and the egg is laid prematurely before the hard calcium shell has had a chance to form around the membrane. The result is a squishy, membrane-bound egg that looks very strange when cracked. It can be caused by stress, a calcium deficiency, or disease. While unappetizing, the contents are usually just a normal yolk and white. A user posted a picture of a decal on an SUV with the Old English font, "Tax my D-ish egg." The user was stumped by the meaning. This appears to be a duplicate or repost of an earlier item. As we've seen before, this is an anti-taxation sticker using crude humor to make a political statement. The phrase is a vulgar expression of defiance against the government. The commenters on this second post, however, took a darker turn, jokingly associating the sticker with the notorious serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer, perhaps because of the macabre, edgy humor and the general creepy white van vibe the sticker projects. While replacing a bathroom fan, a homeowner looked into their attic and spotted a random blue box with a picture of Joe Montana on it. It looked like a book or a special edition case, strangely out of place among the insulation and rafters. This is a collectible box that likely came with a Funko Pop figure or a similar sports memorabilia item. The background illustration is from the cover of the April 26, 1993 issue of Sports Illustrated, which celebrated Joe Montana's move to the Kansas City Chiefs. The box itself is designed to look like a book, but serves as packaging for a collectible. It was probably stored in the attic and forgotten by a previous resident. The footrest on a baby's high chair was held up by a plastic bracket that broke. The user needed to order a new one, but had no idea what the part was called. It was a circular clamp that tightened with a screw. This is a type of Jubilee clip or a worm drive hose clamp, but made of plastic instead of the usual metal. These are adjustable rings that can be tightened around a post or a hose to secure something in place. While they are most famous for their use in automotive and plumbing applications, cheaper plastic versions are often used in toys and baby furniture. Searching for a plastic hose clamp would likely yield the replacement part. A user found a sticker in a car in Portugal. It featured a skull with wings and a complex emblem. They couldn't find any official military or police force that used this design. This is a fantasy or novelty emblem, not an official insignia. It is likely a custom design from a brand, a video game, an airsoft team, or a motorcycle club. The style, often called death's head or winged skull, is a popular motif in military and biker culture, but this specific combination doesn't match any known official organization. It's just a cool-looking sticker meant to project a tough, rebellious image. Halfway up the famous Glastonbury tour in England, a visitor noticed a small, concrete, box-like structure built into the hillside. It looked like a bunker, a circuit box, or a sewage access point. It seemed too industrial for such a historic and mystical site. This is likely an access point for utilities or a monitoring station. The Glastonbury Tor is a major tourist site and a protected landmark, so it requires infrastructure. This could be a housing for electrical equipment for lighting, a pump for the water supply to the summit, or a geological monitoring station. While it looks like a modern intrusion, it is a necessary piece of the support system that keeps the site safe and accessible. A homeowner noticed a dark, spreading stain on their ceiling after a heavy rain. They asked what could be causing it and how screwed they were. The cause is simple: water and a hole. You have an active leak, most likely from the roof or a window flashing. The level of screwed depends on how quickly you act. The immediate damage is cosmetic, stained drywall, but if left unfixed, the water will lead to wood rot, structural damage, and dangerous mold growth. It's better to call a roofer and a drywall professional now, rather than facing a much more expensive ceiling collapse later. A new homeowner found a white box on the wall near a plug socket. It had electrical cables running into the back. It didn't look like a thermostat or a light switch. They wondered if they could just cut the wires to remove it. This is an old panic button for a home security system. When the button is pressed, it triggers an alarm. This specific model requires a key to reset it, preventing a burglar or a mischievous child from turning it off. Before cutting the wires, you should verify if the security system is still active. If it is, cutting the wires could trigger the alarm and dispatch the police to your house for a false alarm. Found in a girlfriend's purse, this small, gray, circular object looked like a key or a token. The finder was trying to figure out what lock it might open, assuming it was a physical key. This is an RFID, radio frequency identification, tag, or key fob. It's not a physical key that goes into a lock. Instead, it contains a tiny microchip and an antenna. When you hold it near a compatible reader, it wirelessly transmits a unique ID code to unlock a door, grant access to a gym, or clock in at work. They are ubiquitous in modern security systems, replacing the traditional metal key with a simple tap. While cleaning their gas hob, the owner noticed it started making a clicking sound and producing sparks, even though the gas wasn't on. They were worried they had broken something or created a dangerous situation. You have accidentally activated the electronic ignition system. When you push down on one of the gas knobs, it not only opens the gas valve, but also completes a circuit that makes the igniter spark to light the flame. You likely leaned on one of the knobs while cleaning, causing the continuous clicking and sparking. It's a safety feature working as intended. Just make sure the knobs are in the off position, and the sparking will stop. Spotted in a tree in Manila, Philippines, were 3 bags of a white, fatty-looking substance hanging from a branch. They looked like bags of lard or soap. These are suet feeders for birds. Suet is a high-energy cake made from rendered animal fat, often mixed with seeds, nuts, and insects. It's an excellent source of calories for wild birds, especially in colder weather or during nesting season. The suet is placed in a mesh bag or a wire cage to allow the birds to peck at it without carrying the whole block away. It's a common way to attract birds like woodpeckers and chickadees. A homeowner was unpacking their Christmas decorations and found a sticky, smelly substance inside a garbage bag used to store garland. The decorations had been stored in the garage all year. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but that is animal poop. A mouse, rat, or squirrel likely chewed its way into the garbage bag during the year to make a nest in the soft garland. The sticky, smelly substance is its accumulated waste. You should discard the contaminated garland and carefully inspect the rest of your stored decorations for signs of a pest infestation before bringing them into the house. A new resident found small plastic clip-like things at the bottom of each window frame. They noticed that bugs and dirt love to hide under them and felt they prevented the window from closing properly. These are sash limit stops or vent stops. They are a safety feature on modern windows, designed to prevent the window from opening more than a few inches. This is to stop children from falling out of the window. They can usually be disengaged or pushed in to allow the window to open fully for cleaning. They don't prevent the window from closing. They prevent it from opening too far. Found behind a car, this object is a thin, flexible metal band with a tiny hole for a screw. It looks like a collar or a strap. The finder wanted to make sure it hadn't fallen off their vehicle. This is a tension band, or a simple strap clamp. They are used for bundling wires together, securing hoses, or attaching components in a variety of applications. While they are used in cars, they are also common in household appliances and industrial equipment. It is most likely a piece of road debris that was kicked up by your tires, not a critical component that has fallen off your car. A user posted a picture of a white, crumbly substance with the simple caption, "What is this 3?" The picture showed a broken piece of a common building material. That is a piece of drywall, also known as plasterboard or gypsum board. It is the standard material used to make interior walls and ceilings in modern construction. It consists of a layer of gypsum plaster pressed between two thick sheets of paper. The crumbly, white core is a dead giveaway. The O3 emoticon suggests the user was likely being playful or feigning ignorance about this incredibly common substance. Found on a beach in Northern California, this object looked like a bowling ball-sized bone. It was hard, lightweight, and had a maze-like, convoluted surface. It was covered in flies, suggesting it was once living tissue. The finder's first guess was the hip joint of a whale. This is the dried-out skeleton of a brain coral. While it may look like a bone, it is actually the intricate calcium carbonate structure built by a colony of tiny coral polyps. When the coral dies, the soft tissue rots away, attracting flies and leaving behind this hard, white skeleton. Tides and currents can detach these coral heads from the reef and wash them ashore. It's a beautiful remnant of a complex marine ecosystem. A homeowner found a bizarre organism growing in their yard. It was reddish-orange, had a slimy, latticed head, and smelled absolutely foul, like rotting meat. The smell was attracting swarms of flies. It looked like something from an alien planet. You have discovered a stinkhorn fungus, possibly a latticed stinkhorn, Clathrus ruber. These fungi are famous for their strange shapes and their repulsive odor. The foul smell is a clever evolutionary strategy. It mimics the scent of decaying flesh to attract flies. The flies crawl all over the slimy head, the gleba, get covered in spores, and then fly off to spread the fungus to new locations. It's disgusting, but brilliant. A user found a small, gray plastic device and asked what it was. It looked like a modern electronic component, possibly a sensor or a tracker. It had markings and a simple, functional design. This is a wear sensor for a prescribed orthopedic brace, like a back or knee brace. Doctors often prescribe these braces to be worn for a specific number of hours each day to be effective. This sensor tracks the temperature and pressure to ensure the patient is complying with the doctor's orders. At the next checkup, the doctor can download the data to see if the patient has been wearing the brace as directed. It's a high-tech way to monitor treatment adherence. A user asked what a strange, mushroom-shaped object was for. It had a clear dome on top and what looked like a bundle of tubes or fibers inside. It seemed designed to capture something. This is an optic fiber solar light collector, a device for piping sunlight indoors. The clear dome on the roof collects and concentrates sunlight, focusing it onto a bundle of fiber optic cables. These cables then run through the walls or ceiling, delivering natural sunlight to illuminate windowless rooms like basements or interior hallways. It's an innovative way to bring the full spectrum of natural light into dark spaces without using electricity. A skywatcher saw what looked like a fiery trail across the sky. Their dad said it was a plane, but they thought it looked like a fireball. The trail was glowing a bright orange-red against the darkening sky. Your dad was right. This is a plane contrail being illuminated by the setting sun. A contrail is a trail of ice crystals formed from the water vapor in a jet's exhaust. When the plane is flying at a very high altitude, the sun has already set for you on the ground, but it is still shining up where the plane is. The low-angle sunlight hits the ice crystals and reflects down, creating a spectacular fiery-colored streak that looks much more dramatic than a normal daytime contrail. Found in a late father's garage, this mechanical device looked like a piece of a typewriter, but was missing the keyboard and legs. It featured a complex mechanism with levers and possibly a timer. This appears to be a typewriter speed and accuracy testing machine. In the era of professional typists, these devices were used in secretarial schools and competitions to measure typing speed, words per minute, and accuracy. They would often use a scrolling paper roll, like a player piano, to feed the text, and the machine would track the typist's performance. It's a relic from a time when typing was a specialized, high-demand skill. Taken at around midnight in Oxfordshire, UK, a photo captured a strange green light in the sky. The photographer was a bit sloshed and thought they were imagining it, but the picture proved the light was real. While UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon, is the modern term for a UFO, this green light is most likely a lens flare from a bright ground-based light source, like a street light or a traffic signal, just out of the camera's frame. Green is a very common color for lens flare artifacts in digital photography. Alternatively, it could be a powerful green laser pointer being aimed at the sky, which can also appear as a stationary bright dot. A parent was about to feed their baby frozen peas and found a strange, tube-shaped object in the bag. It was about half an inch long and looked like a part of a plant, but it wasn't a pea pod. This is a piece of vegetable matter other than peas, as the packaging would say. It is likely a piece of the pea vine stem or a bit of a weed that was growing in the field. During mechanical harvesting, other plant parts can get mixed in with the crop. While it's not a pea, it is harmless organic material that made it past the sorting machines. It's best to just pick it out and carry on with dinner. A user asked, "Whose footprint is it?" showing a track in the snow. The print had a distinct pattern, 2 small prints side by side, followed by 2 larger prints in a line. That is the classic track of a hopping rabbit. A rabbit's gait is a bound. It places its small front paws down first, one slightly in front of the other, and then brings its large, powerful hind feet forward to land ahead of the front prints. So, the 2 big prints in the front are actually the back feet, which provide the push for the next jump. The direction of travel is towards the big prints. A mechanic found a broken metal tool on the engine splash shield of a car he was working on. It wasn't an automotive tool he recognized. It had a handle and a hook-like clamp, part of which was broken off. This is a toggle latch clamp or a draw latch. These are used to hold lids, doors, or panels tightly shut. You hook the latch onto a catch and pull the handle down, which creates tension and locks the 2 pieces together. They are common on toolboxes, equipment cases, and industrial machinery. This one likely fell off a piece of equipment on the road and got kicked up into the car's undercarriage. A son was digging out his garden for a new pond and came across a large, bowl-shaped disc made of something like fiberglass. It had a connector for a hose or pipe at the bottom. The location was rural Lancashire, UK. This is likely the cover or part of an old septic tank or a cesspit. In rural areas without access to a main sewer line, older homes use these underground tanks to handle waste. The fiberglass is likely a glass-reinforced plastic, GRP, a common material for modern septic tanks. The pipe connector would have been for the inlet or outlet pipe. He has uncovered a piece of his home's sanitation history. What was the weirdest object for you? Let me know in the comments and share this to test your friends. If you love uncovering these mysteries, hit like and subscribe. Your support helps us find more curious explorers like you. Stay curious.